Here is something we don't talk enough about. Your customers don't trust you. It's not because your product is not good. It's because you're starting your pitch in the wrong place. You're trying to earn trust with what you do. Simon Sinek earns trust with why he does it. And that's what's fascinating. A study by Google found that emotional connection is twice as important as brand perception when it comes to purchase decision. Twice. Yet, most sales reps lead with features, functions, and facts, completely skipping the emotional foundation. And that's why if Simon Sinek joined you on a sales call, he'd outsell you without mentioning a single feature. Today, we break down exactly how he creates trust, belief, and loyalty, and how you can apply it immediately to transform every sales conversation you have. So welcome back to this series where I break down the communication habits of the world's most influential people and reverse engineer their psychology so you become more persuasive, more trusted, and more effective in every sales conversation. If you want to level up in sales, stop memorizing scripts and start studying how people think. So before we dive in, here's the context you need. Simon Sinek is a leadership expert, best-selling author, and speaker who delivered the third most watched TED Talk of all time, How Great Leaders Inspire Action. That talk has been viewed over 60 million times. Think about that. Millions of people voluntarily watch an 80-minute presentation about leadership and communication. He wrote a book, Start With Why, Leaders It Last, and The Infinite Game. Books that have changed how organizations think about purpose, culture, and long-term success. But here's what makes Simon different from other business authors. He didn't just create a framework. He uncovered a pattern. He studied the world's most inspiring leaders, Martin Luther King, Steve Jobs, the Wright brothers, and discovered they all communicated in the exact same way, whether they knew it or not. And they all started with the same question: why? As Simon says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. And in sales, this one shift from what to why can transform how buyers perceive you, trust you, and choose you. Now let's get into the psychology behind why this works. The Golden Circle is Sinek's most famous framework. It explains that all great leaders and brands communicate from the inside out. Why? The belief, the purpose, the cause. How? The approach, the process, the differentiator. And what? The product, the service, the result. Most sales reps start with the wrong layer. They start at the what. They talk about product, features, pricing, functionality. And your buyer sits there thinking, so what? Everyone says this. And here's why this fails at a very deep neurological level. The what appeals to the neocortex, the rational, analytical part of the brain. This is where we process facts and figures. But the decisions are not made there. Decisions are made in the limbic brain, the emotional center that controls feelings, trust, and behavior. And here's the problem. The limbic brain cannot process language. It cannot process facts and features. It responds to feelings and beliefs. That's why when you lead with what, buyers say things like, it looks great, but something doesn't feel right. Or the numbers make sense, but I'm not sure. Or I need to think about it. They cannot articulate why they're not buying because the decision-making part of their brain doesn't speak in words. So now let's see how Sinek flips this with the Apple example. In his book he shares, and in the TED Talk he shares how computer companies sold in the 90s. We make great computers. They're fast, powerful, and reliable. They're user-friendly and with a good price. Want to buy one? And that's a good example of what, how, and why. It's logical, professional, but completely forgettable. But Apple flipped the entire script, and that has created a movement. Apple starts with why. In everything we do, we believe in challenging the status quo. We believe in thinking differently. This hits the limbic brain immediately. You either resonate with that belief or you don't. If you do, you're already leaning in. And then they move to how. The way we challenge the status quo is by making our product beautifully designed, simple to use, and user-friendly. This is how they're explaining their approach, the how. And finally, they get to the what. We just happen to make great computers. Want to buy one? The product becomes proof of their belief and not the reason to buy. And so in your sales, you must not pitch like a Dell computer in 1997. It should sound like Apple. Because Sinek says, working hard for something we don't care about is called stress. Working hard for something we love is called passion. And so when you lead with why, your buyer feels your belief, and belief builds trust much faster than any feature list ever could. Because people don't want computer. They want to be the kind of person who thinks differently. And that's why people spend so much money on Apple product. So let's go deeper into the science for a moment, because understanding this will change how you sell forever. The golden circle is not just a nice idea. It mirrors the structure of the human brain. The neocortex, the outer layer of the brain, the what, rational, thoughts, language analysis, the limbic brain, the middle layer, the why and the how, feeling, trust, decision making. So we have both sides, but when you start with the what, you're speaking to the part of the brain that cannot make decisions. When you start with the why, you're speaking directly to the part that can. And this is why people say things like, it just feels right. I trust them. Something about this resonates with me. They're describing limbic responses, feelings without words. And so here's the sales implication. If you want to influence behavior, you must speak to the limbic brain first. That means start with purpose, not product. Lead with belief, not benefits. And create alignment, not arguments. Facts tell, but stories sell. But purpose builds movements. So here's Sinek's greatest influence trick, and most people completely miss it. He doesn't try to convince you of anything. He aligns with what you already believe. Think about it. When Simon says, people don't buy what you do, they buy why you do it. He's not arguing with you. He's giving language to something you already felt but you could not articulate. And that's alignment. Alignment creates trust. It creates connection. It creates openness. And then a lot of reps skipped it entirely. You pitch before aligning. You want to explain before connecting. You want to convince people, persuade before understanding. And that's why you are losing deals that you should be winning. So let's take a look at the framework. I will call it the alignment ladder. Step 1 is to uncover the why. What made this a priority for you personally? Why does solving this matter to you? What does success look like? Not just for the company, but for you. It's really the connection between the business priority and the personal priorities. Then you can share your why. Here's why we build this. Here's what we believe. Here's the problem we exist to solve. And step 3 is to show the alignment. It sounds like we believe the same thing, that their value matters more than alternative value. That's exactly why we do what we do. When you align with their why, trust happens automatically. You're no longer a vendor, you're a fellow believer. And Sinek understands a fundamental rule. You cannot influence someone who doesn't feel understood. So let's take a look at 3 sales applications. Opening a discovery call. The better opening would be, thanks for taking the time today. Let me walk you through what our solution does and how it can help your team. This is the what first. It's transactional, it's forgettable. Sinek's style opening will be, thank you for taking the time. Before we dive into anything, I'd love to understand, why is solving that problem important to you right now? And not just to the company, but to you personally. And let them answer. And then you can say, that makes total sense. And that's why we built this. We kept seeing companies struggle with that problem. And we believe solving it shouldn't require old painful way. So we built something different. So what we just did, we uncovered the why first. You shared your why, which is your belief. And then you create an emotional foundation before discussing product. Now, when you show them the what, it lands differently. Because it's proof of a shared belief. And it's just not just another tool. Another way you can apply it is by when you present your solution. The better way would be, let me show you the dashboard. Here's the reporting feature. Here's how you customize workflow. Here's the integration library. It's features, 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 features. Any questions? And that's a cognitive overload. The buyer is drowning in what without understanding why it matters. And when you sell like Simon Sinek, you start with why. Here's why this matters to teams like yours. Most platforms were built for IT departments, not for the people actually using them. That creates friction. Our belief is that software should adapt to how people work, not the other way around. Then you can move to how. So here's how we approach it differently. We design everything around 3 principles: simplicity, flexibility, and speed. And then you show the what. Now let me show you what that looks like in practice. And then you can demo the dashboard, but then you connect each feature back to the principles. Do you see how this workflow auto-adapts? That's actually the ability to be flexible and tell a story starting with why. So the structure, meaning, mechanism, and feature goes to purpose, process, product. Why, how, and what. When you present this way, features become evidence of your belief system. They're not just a list of capabilities. And the third example is, how do you handle objections? Bad objection handling looks like, the timing is not great right now. The rep. Let me explain why now is actually the perfect time. You just triggered defensiveness. They said no, you said, but actually, and if you do like Simon Sinek, it would be, the timing is not great right now. The rep. Breathe. I totally understand. Timing is important. And then you validate, don't argue. Can I ask, you mentioned earlier that your team is burned out and productivity is dropping. Is solving that still a priority for you? You connect it to their why. The buyer would say, yes, absolutely. So help me understand, what needs to happen for the timing to feel right? Because if burnout is getting worse, waiting might make the timing even harder down the road. So what we just did now, we validated the concern, the safety, the health of their team. You connected to their original why, you realign, and then you invite them to weigh their objections against their motivation, self-discovery. You're not pushing, you're not arguing. You're pulling them back to what they say matters, their internal why. When you handle objections this way, the buyers often talk themselves into moving forward. So let's bring this together with a complete framework you can use in your next discovery call. Most reps ask surface level questions. What's your biggest challenge? What are you looking for in a solution? What's your timeline? These are what questions. They collect data, but they don't create a connection. But here's the why discovery framework. Phase 1. Understand the why. Even better, understand their personal why. You need to ask questions that will uncover their personal motivation. Why is this a priority for you right now? And not just for the company, but for you personally. What does success look like for you in your role? If this problem disappeared tomorrow, what would that mean for you? What made you start looking for a solution now? These questions go deeper than business objectives. They uncover ego, fear, ambition, value. Then you go to the organizational why. Try to understand the company's belief system. What does your company value most? Speed, quality, innovation, stability? How does your leadership define success? What's the culture like when it comes to change or new initiatives? This tells you whether your why will align with theirs at the organizational level. So note that depending on the relation, you might want to start with your organizational why and then the personal why. It's all down to you. After that, you can share your why. Now that you understand their beliefs, you can share yours. That makes complete sense. Here's why we built this. Your origin story, your belief, your purpose. We believe that core value, and from what you've shared, it sounds like you believe that too. And phase 4 is connect the why to what. Only now, you show them the product, but you frame every feature as evidence of your shared belief. Remember how you say that point matters most to you? Here's how we've built that into everything we do. When you follow this sequence, the buyer doesn't feel sold to. They feel understood. And that's when trust turns into commitment. If you want buyers to trust you, truly trust you, stop starting with what you sell. Start with why it matters. Start with belief. Start with purpose. That's how Simon Sinek turns ideas into movements. That's how Apple turns customers into evangelists. And that's how you can turn conversations into closed-won deals. So here's your homework. Before your next sales call, write down your personal why you do this work, your company's why, the belief behind the product, and then 3 questions to uncover the buyer's why. And then you can lead with those. And just watch what happens when you stop selling product and start sharing beliefs. So please like and subscribe if you found this valuable, and drop a comment and let me know who should I break down next. Obama, Steve Jobs, your vote decides the next episode. I thank you for watching, and now go start with why and close some nice deals. Take care.